South Africa's National Congress ANC has lost a parliamentary majority and will need coalition partners to surpass 50% of votes to form a government. After all the ballots were counted in South Africa, the ANC received only 40.18% of votes in Wednesday's election. Following the IEC's announcement of the 2024 results, certain procedural steps must be taken for South Africa to form a government. Now, these include: the newly elected National Assembly must hold its first sitting within 14 days of the election results, where members are sworn in and the Speaker is elected. The National Assembly elects the President of South Africa during the first sitting or soon after that. The President is then responsible for appointing the Cabinet and then forming the government. The entire process is usually completed within a few weeks to ensure a smooth power transition. We now cross over to our analyst, Ranga, to discuss the current South African situation further and just get more insights and analysis on that. Ranga, good evening to you. Now, South Africa's current president, 71-year-old Cyril Ramaphosa, has indicated that he will not resign following the ANC's poor performance at the polls. What does he need to do in order to be re-elected?
Yeah, I don't think he needs to do much because, mind you, ANC is still the majority party in South Africa. You might also be aware that ANC managed to have more than 50% of the votes in 5 of the 9 provinces. That tells you how popular the party is. However, in terms of what he needs to do, he simply needs to find partners in the other parties. It might be DA, it might be EFF, it might be MK, in order for him to be re-elected. From where I'm standing, I think that the majority ANC members would want him to continue, so he doesn't need really to do a lot because the depreciation in terms of voters that occurred in this election is also a collective responsibility of the ANC, despite President Ramaphosa being the leader of the ANC. So I don't think the blame should just be given to one individual. I think it was a collective, effort, and I think he doesn't need to do much. He would have to find partners in the other parties in order to form the next government. So I think the odds are still in ANC's favor. The odds are still in President Cyril Ramaphosa's favor, and I'm sure, given his background and experience in negotiations, he will be able to strike a pact with one or two of the opposition parties.
Now, speaking of which, there has been a lot of talk about coalitions that can come up in the aftermath of this election. What is the most likely coalition, and what would each potential marriage mean in terms of the policy direction that South Africa will now take?
Ideally, you would expect that ANC as a revolutionary party will be able to get into a pact or a partnership with political parties like MK, Mkhonto weSizwe, led by the former president Jacob Zuma, or go into a pact with the EFF, Economic Freedom Fighters, led by Julius Malema. Because when you look at it ideologically, there is so much affinity in those parties, among those parties, that they would easily find each other if they were to go into a partnership. However, there are other dimensions that you need to look at. If you get the idea and the knowledge that South Africa fundamentally is, in terms of its economy, in the hands of white capital, which is mostly the whites, DA being a party which is in opposition and fundamentally supported by white establishment, there are others who would think that for the economic stability of South Africa, ANC needs to go into a pact with DA because of for the markets. But in terms of political power, I think it would be very ideal for ANC to go into a pact either with the MK or with the EFF, depending on the number of votes that they will be able to amass to surpass the 50% vote mark. So it's not clear, but from where I am, I think those are the main scenarios that can outplay. Either a pact with DA for the markets or a pact with the EFF or MK as political parties that have a certain ideological affinity with each other.
Konapo, ipapo pa ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.